So, welcome everyone to our SLECoP webinar, the Chicago Convening Preview. I'm Jeremy Shorr, and I'm excited to give you a little bit of a sneak peek into what we have planned for our upcoming Chicago Convening. Throughout the presentation portion of the webinar, as I mentioned, use that Q&A tool down at the bottom to ask any questions. We've left time at the end of the session to answer those questions, and anything that we can't quite get to, we will make sure to get answered for you. This is something that we feel really deeply about. There is nothing more important in the community of practice than all of us being together. So we're so excited that you're here to learn a little bit more, and we're really excited to see everyone in person in October. Jenny?
Hello, everyone. I'm Jenny Frank. I think I'm still kind of the new director of the STEM Learning Ecosystems Communities of Practice. And today, our session, we're going to walk you through the key elements of our upcoming convening, including our theme, our agenda, and some opportunities for engagement. So without further ado, let's dive in.
All right, so we're really excited to welcome my friend. I'm very excited to be in Chicago with my friend Natasha Smith-Walker and Chetta Potts from the Chicago STEM Pathway Cooperative. They're here to tell us more about the upcoming convening in their home city. Natasha, can you give us a little bit of a warm welcome to Chicago? You are still muted.
I need to unmute. So good afternoon, everybody. And yes, I'm Natasha Smith-Walker. I'm excited that Jeremy and team and Jenny and everybody's coming to the city of Chicago on behalf of the Chicago STEM Pathways Cooperative, which is Chicago STEM Ecosystem. We are so excited to have the entire STEM learning ecosystem community of practice come back to Chicago this October and really dive into the innovation, the culture, the diversity that we have here in our city and meet our partners. And so come on to Chicago, and we're looking forward to having you.
We're so excited, Natasha, Chetta. We're very excited. We get to meet with them every week. And I can be honest to say that every week, every time we add something to the agenda, I get more and more excited. Chetta, do you think you can talk to us a little bit about this year's convening theme?
This year's theme, similar to what Natasha was saying, is access and action, and we are reflecting our commitment to making STEM opportunities accessible to all. So this theme will be woven throughout our sessions and activities, emphasizing practical strategies to break down barriers in STEM education and careers, and we could not be more excited.
And that's a really powerful theme, Chetta. Can you elaborate on why access and action is really important to the work that the Chicago ecosystem is doing? You know, what are we going to hear about and learn about while we're there?
I think I'm going to just pick up where Chetta was at. You know, we have a very diverse city, and we actually really recognize what it looks like when you don't have STEM education in a high quality way. We've done quite a bit of work to understand our STEM landscape. For the last 10 years, we've been really looking at that data, and so we want to make sure that we continue to push the envelope and make sure that every kid in our city, especially on the south and west side, are getting access to high quality STEM education.
What I'm excited about that, sort of feedback from the community is, sometimes we go to these cities and we hear from folks, but it doesn't super shape what the convening itself looks like. Chicago's this amazing city. I'm drinking out of my Chicago Public Library mug right now. It's one of my favorites. But I'm wondering how all of these activities in Chicago itself are going to shape the convening activities.
We're really working to create real world examples of what we do, right? And so I think that having been one of the inaugural STEM learning ecosystem communities in the heyday of when these all started back moons ago, one of the things that was really important to me coming back to Chicago was after 10 years, we really should have opportunity to share what it really means. And so even the theme was intentional around, what does it look like? And not just being able to come and say, I have a program, this is what the program does, et cetera, but really wanting to push the envelope to say, we have this program, here are the people that are helping to implement it. And so even thinking about how does our funding community connect with our school community? How does that school community amplify STEM learning within their institution? What are those educators doing when they're actually working in person with students? And so creating our workshops, our E2E sessions where they're interactive, where our audience and participants can actually experience and design, alongside the practitioners that they're going to be sharing that information with. We're also really pushing for panel discussions featuring our community leaders who have implemented these things. And so I cannot wait for people to meet people like, Mr. Anderson, who is the most phenomenal principal in the city of Chicago, and how he embraces this kind of work, and he really encourages his teachers to also amplify and do this 100%, for young people. And so for us, it's really showing those things. Field trips, creating field trips and experiences where people are going to be able to go and see things in action is also really important to us. And so we're really very happy to be a part of this particular convening in the sense that we really want people to walk away with, here are some tangible ways of thinking about this. Here's some tangible ways of doing this work. Here's some tangible ways of really being able to say, we want to make sure that every kid gets an opportunity to do something fun, cool, and learn.
It's interesting, Natasha. One of the first experiences that I had was on a Chicago call where we were talking about the convening and planning. And, throughout that call, you have always been steadfast about the importance of being actionable in the work that we're doing, about the why. And so I was hoping that you could just share a little bit more about, what is the why behind this focus on access? What is the urgency? Why is this so crucial now in the STEM field?
Yeah. So I think the reason that the why is important is because at the end of the day, what has happened that has been revolutionary in STEM education, especially for young people that are Black, brown, or in urban communities, or even in rural communities or suburban communities where access to high quality STEM opportunities is limited. So I'll say that. So I think the why is really because we as a nation have to really think about what is happening in our classrooms, both informal and formal. What is happening in our communities? What is happening in our STEM institutions? What is happening in our higher ed institutions? And how are we making sure that we're creating those opportunities, those pathways for young people to really get access to STEM education in a variety of ways? I think that, coming out of the heels of COVID, when young people were isolated, and then a period of time when young people were still struggling to actually become part of a school fabric or part of an after school program or part of a park district program, it really caused some challenges for young people. And so I think that right now it's key for us to be creative problem solvers, come up with some comprehensive solutions that aren't just Band-Aids, making sure that there is this notion of cross-sector communication. I know 10 years ago when we first started this work, this notion around cross-sector communication was essential. The image was a young person in the center and all of these entities that basically orbited around a young person, from a park to parents to schools to higher ed to funders. And that is so much more necessary now more than ever, because we really need that comprehensive, that connected way to help strengthen STEM education so that we're creating those pathways, those opportunities. Again, we're not going to just create engineers and neurosurgeons, but we're going to create a culture of young people who are much more they're critical thinkers. They understand sort of that notion of curiosity and engagement. And so it's really important for us to make sure that we're really connecting these dots and helping others help connect the dots, again, for whatever young person does not have access to that.
That's a really compelling argument for access, but I'm looking down the list of our attendees, and I don't think there's anybody here we need to convince of the importance of access. The thing that I always run into or frequently run into are situations where, in our world, it's just rare to find somebody who doesn't know that this is what's right. What's difficult is knowing what to do next. We want the access. How do we actually make it happen? How do we turn it into action? So what's something that you can tell us about how that focus on access and action is going to play into the Chicago convening. Chet, I see that you are on in a different way. I'm wondering if maybe we can hear you now that other way. Let's find out.
Can y'all hear me?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, so the convening isn't just about inspiration, it's about action. So when you leave from our city, Chicago, you're going to have these concrete strategies, tools, connections, a bunch of resources that we've been compiling, thinking about, playing on to make STEM education more accessible in your community. Make it make sense for your town, your city, your village. Access in action is our call. It's a call to action. It's our call to the entire community of practice to turn our shared vision of inclusive STEM education into reality. So we're not just talking about change, but again, Natasha said this perfectly, but creating those pathways to make this happen.
Oh, I absolutely love this. Thank you so much, Natasha. Thank you so much, Chetta. I think this has been a really insightful preview into the Chicago convening. Definitely a great beginning. We look forward to experiencing the Windy City with you, and obviously diving deep into access and action in this October. So thank you very much. All right, so now what we are going to do is we are going to walk through the exciting agenda that we have planned for the Chicago convening in perfect ties fashion. Just so you know, there's always going to be a little something extra. So there will be updates along the way between now and October. But I think what we're going to share with you today, that you can see that we've designed each day to be packed with inspiration, to be packed with learning, and obviously, most importantly, opportunities for connection.
That's right, Jenny. Our schedule includes inspiring main stage presentations, ample networking opportunities, and our groundbreaking AI Summit and Playground.
So day one is going to kick off with a bang. We are so thrilled to have Dr. James Moore III back as one of our keynote speakers. As the Assistant Director of the Directorate for STEM Education at the National Science Foundation, Dr. Moore obviously brings a wealth of experience in STEM education, but also diversity and inclusion.
Absolutely. And Jenny, Dr. Moore's work on broadening participation in STEM, a lot of you attended a webinar with him. He's a really exciting person because he sees the same kinds of struggle that we all see, and he's really trying to make systemic changes that can directly impact our work in terms of funding in this sort of world. So his focus on African-American males and urban education, it aligns perfectly with our access and action theme. His keynote's really sure to set an inspiring tone for the entire convening.
And I know that we are equally excited about another keynote speaker. His name is Billy Allman, and Billy is just an incredibly inspirational figure. His journey from a child inspired by comic book inventors to becoming a Disney Imagineer, a biomimicry expert, and an innovative thinker is just a really inspiring story. And we think that you're going to be really engaged with what he has to offer, not just talking about STEM and his pathway through STEM, but also the importance of networks like ours, of communities of practice to really advance STEM and meet the needs of our local communities.
And we're also really excited about our second keynote speaker, Billy Allman. Billy's new to me, but I had the opportunity to talk with him the other day, and his journey from being a child inspired by comic books and inventions to becoming an Imagineer, a biomimicry expert, and an innovative thinker is truly inspiring. We talked a lot about what he's going to be discussing, and I'm really, and I shouldn't say this, I guess. I don't always get excited for our keynotes. I'm very excited about both of these this year.
Yeah, I think that having Dr. Moore and Billy as our keynotes is going to be just a really great opportunity for us to represent different facets of the access and action theme. I think Dr. Moore is bringing that policy and research perspective, while Billy's going to really show us the creative and interdisciplinary possibilities of STEM.
And his perspective, he's going to talk about biomimicry, nature's blueprint for STEM innovation. And he talked a little bit about that, but he's going to sort of use these examples from science and nature to talk not about science and nature, but about our work in our communities, which is really exciting.
Very cool. Jeremy, can you share with us a little bit about the AI Education Summit?
Sure. So one of the highlights of the convening is the AI Education Summit on Tuesday, October 29th from 2:30 to 5. And we've partnered with leading tech organizations to bring you the latest in AI for education. You're going to hear from experts like Alex Catron from AI EDU, Aaron Mote from Innovate EDU, and a lot more that are still kind of being finalized. But some of the biggest thinkers in education from all over the country, in AI in education from all over the country. You'll get hands-on experience with the AI platforms that are reshaping STEM education. And this summit, funded by the Booz Allen Foundation, is your chance to engage with these top innovators and really explore how AI is transforming our field.
When you're not diving into AI, as always, we have a really great playground available to you, an immersive STEM experience that will be open throughout the convening. It's the place where you get to go and play and explore and dive into cutting edge technologies and STEM innovation. We've also been really mindful. We've heard a lot of feedback about the importance, the essential nature of the community of practice, and this convening providing networking opportunities. So we've got welcome reception on our first night. We've got field trips Natasha and Chetta talked about to local institutions, and breakfasts and lunches. We've got it all. We are there to help you to make connections with old friends and hopefully new friends. And all of them are just perfectly aligned to this idea of access and action, not just in Chicago's vibrant STEM community, but our own communities and how that can look in our own spaces and places. I just want to also mention one more thing that I'm very excited about. We have two really good panel discussions that are in the process of being discovered and planned, and those are going to focus on innovative approaches to workforce development, which I know is on everyone's top of mind, and the idea of better preparing our youth for STEM careers for tomorrow. So the second panel I'm hoping is going to be a place and a space to really amplify youth voices in STEM, where we know that we're going to be featuring some really great STEM young innovators and advocates. They're going to share their experiences, their perspectives on a future of STEM, their futures in STEM and careers. So I promise you that these panels will be dynamic, they'll be insightful, and we feel like there will be some really great takeaways for all attendees. So look for some more details, stay tuned for updates. We're going to talk about what I think is one of the most important and exciting parts of the convening, and that is our E2E sessions, our ecosystem to ecosystem sessions. And Jeremy, I understand that you have a very special way of introducing these.
I don't know how special it is. I mean, I feel like people are already waiting for this. But, you know, the movie that I based my entire life on was here in Chicago. And in addition to that, we all know that, listen, the main stage stuff's important. We've got to be in a big room sometimes. We've got to have, you know, information that's communicated to everybody. But also, you know, sometimes you want to die inside when you're in those big rooms for hours and hours on end. So we're really, really trying to focus as much as possible on the ecosystem to ecosystem sessions. They're where I know I learned the most. And in the spirit of Chicago and inspired by that certain famous day off, we're going to take you on a quick whirlwind tour of our E2Es. So buckle up, because in true Ferris Bueller style, we're going to make this fast, fun, and hopefully unforgettable.
All right, so let's go. On our first stop to this E2E adventure is the Willis Tower, also known as the Sears Tower of STEM innovation.
So anything is peaceful from 1,353 feet. And at the Willis Tower, we're supercharging STEM with real-world problem solving. For example, the Invent Ed Network will show you how to unleash creativity and design empathetic solutions to community challenges.
And that's not all. You'll also explore Texas's journey to universal STEM education and discover how Next Wave STEM is innovating to educate. It's a view of STEM education you won't forget.
Next, we're going to race over to Wrigley Field for a home run in STEM access.
Oh, step up to the plate with Act Now as they unlocked potential in under-resourced environments. Then watch Black Girls Code knock it out of the park by revolutionizing STEM access. Oh, and don't forget Lumity, who's increasing access to STEM career pathways. It is a triple play of STEM success.
Now we're taking a quick detour to my favorite scene in the movie at the Art Institute of Chicago for some great STEM by design.
Get ready to create your own STEAM-powered masterpiece at the Art Institute of Chicago. We'll start by exploring a magical fusion of STEM and storytelling with STEM Southeastern North Carolina and partners, and discover how beloved children's books can ignite a passion for both reading and STEM careers. Oh, be still my heart. And then we'll join STEAM Ecosystem BC to learn the art of organizing vibrant, budget-friendly STEAM events that showcase your community's talents. And to complete this masterpiece, we will dive into Shed Aquarium's innovative approach to cultivating youth leaders through environmental education and place-based action. It's a true STEAM spectacular that's going to leave you inspired and equipped to paint a brighter future for STEM education.
But we're not done yet. Then we zoom over to Millennium Park to see the future reflected. You see what we did there? The bean. See that? Reflected in STEM.
Just like the bean, Jeremy, it reflects the Chicago skyline. And with these sessions, will reflect the future of STEM education and workforce. We've got Verizon to show us more about transforming classrooms with tech-savvy teaching. We've got Arizona State and its partners making science centers more inclusive for neurodivergent learners using STEM backpacks. That's pretty cool. And of course, we've got Alabama STEM Council. They are igniting STEM across the entire state with their hub and spoke implementation model. Remember, as Ferris said, life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. So don't miss these sessions.
And for our grand finale, we head to the Chicago Theater to put STEM center stage.
And it's showtime. Putnam County Schools District will demonstrate how to integrate STEM into every rural setting. Then Ohio STEM Sales charts a course for statewide STEM excellence, and our closing act, Project Sincere, will show us their blueprint for STEM engagement through N-powered games. I promise you, it's a performance you won't want to miss.
I should say to everybody that we really wanted some music playing there that I'll play at the end, but for copyright reasons, we had to cut that part out. So Jenny, that was quite a tour, but in all seriousness, these E2Es are a crucial part of our convening. They're where the real collaborative work happens.
Absolutely, Jeremy. You know, we obviously love to have fun. That's part of what makes TIES and the community of practice such an engaging and exciting place to be. But these E2Es are really designed to foster deep, meaningful discussions and produce actionable strategies. Each session, and this is just an example, a small group of the sessions that we have offered is focused on providing practical solutions for real change in STEM access.
Exactly. And whether you're looking to improve digital access, integrate STEM across various subjects, or align STEM learning with workforce needs, there should be an E2E for you.
Yeah, and remember, what happens in the E2Es doesn't stay in the E2Es. We encourage all participants to take the strategies and insights they gain and bring them back to your own ecosystems.
Well said, Jenny. These EDs are where our theme of access and action really comes to life. It's not just about talking, it's about doing. And that was some of the feedback we got back around, right, Jenny, the longer form sessions, which were great and allowed us to dig in deep, but also people want to be able to just kind of hop around and learn about all of the incredible things that are happening around the world.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And on that note, let's move on to our next segment before we move into our Q&A. And we just want to take a moment to recognize our incredible sponsors who make this convening possible.
Before we move into that Q&A, I want to extend our heartfelt thanks to the Chicago team and all of its partners who've been instrumental in planning this year's convening. You'll get to hear from them, meet all of them when we get there, and please make sure you do. They've so many resources, so many ideas to reach all of you. Chicago, your dedication and hard work are really appreciated. I'd also like to recognize the TIES folks for their tireless efforts. A special shout out to Emily Neal. Your commitment to making this convening a success is remarkable. Thank you all for your passion and dedication to advancing STEM education and access for all. All right, so let's open the floor to questions. I did see a couple, not in the Q&A tool, but I did see a couple in the chat that I'm scrolling down and finding. Jenny, the AI Summit, or Emily, the AI Summit, do people need to separately register for that? How is that working? How do people get involved with that summit?
Yep, just like, so basically the first step is that you need to register for the convening, right? So registration is open right now. We'll drop the link in the chat. We'll share it with some of the resources after this webinar, but you can register for the convening. Probably within the middle of the month, we are going to open up the sessions. So the E2E sessions you can register for, and the AI Summit is the exact same kind of idea. You'll be able to register for it. However, on a special note, it is a smaller environment, so there is a limited capacity. So if this is something you're really interested in, our recommendation is register early.
And I would definitely try to get into that session if you're going to be there. It's going to be, I hope, a lot of fun and a lot of learning. But I wanted to sort of call out that our friends, I saw in the chat, our friends at the Broadcom Foundation are bringing 50 science fair directors from across the country, and they're hoping to connect them with all of the local ecosystems. So there's going to be some communication coming out around that. Those science fair folks, you know, a lot of them are already connected to ecosystems, but a lot of them aren't. And there's such an obvious connection there. So I know the Broadcom Foundation and all of us are really excited to make those connections. Jenny, that's the part of this convening, I think. There's sort of three parts of this convening that I love. Listen, I love the sessions. I love the main stage stuff, but really, I love learning things in those small E2Es, and I love running into people at the deli meat table or whatever, and just learning about what they're doing because it helps me do my work. I think most of you know that I get to do this, but the rest of the year, I'm working out in communities like all of you are, and I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't have the knowledge and the networking that I've gained from the STEM ecosystems community of practice. So really making and cementing those connections. So make sure that you're, not only attending the EDs, but going to the evening events. Listen, I'm old and tired, and sometimes I just want to crawl into bed, but those evening events are where we really, really cement those connections. Jenny, while we wait to see if there's any final questions before we close, any sort of quick hits from you on, there are a number of new folks who are here today, on things that people should be thinking about in advance of attendance.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had, our LC2 committee, our Leadership Coordinating Council, which is made up of ecosystem leads, has been providing us with some really incredible insight about things that were really beneficial and instrumental for them as they attend and experience convenings. And, one of the things that you really want to think about is, are you bringing a team? And what's the purpose of that team? What is that team going to do, and what are you going to get out of it? And anything that we can do to support that teaming and those experiences, we are absolutely going to do. The McCormick Center is a big place. There are spaces available, and we will definitely be sure to share that. But having opportunities to decompress, to think about what you've learned, and to translate that into your individual ecosystem right then and there is just going to be such a fruitful and thoughtful event. So we encourage that teaming. Obviously mark your calendars. I don't know how many times I tell people it's the date. And yes, it is on Halloween. It's the 29th through the 31st. If you embrace wearing costumes, we embrace you. A couple things to think about is access and action, but there are a ton of different strands. There's a ton of different cross-sector partners presenting various viewpoints, and everybody just doing really great work to increase opportunity and advance STEM. Another thing is to be paying close attention to our newsletters. There's always updates of new things that are up in our newsletters about upcoming things, additional items that have been added to the agenda. So I encourage you to continue to watch the newsletter and interact there. Reach out to us. Myself, Emily, our team, we are here to answer any questions that we can for you. And we're here to support you. We want to make sure that we're your hosts, and we want to make sure that this is a really great experience for you.
I do want to call out one thing that Jenny said. You know, it may be too late for this for some of you, and that's okay. You can think about next year. I do always like to mention, though, that the best convening that I attended of all of the convenings, I think it's fun to ask people, do this sometime, which one was their favorite and why. My favorite was the one in Tampa. And here's why. It was great. It was a great convening, but you know, a lot of the convenings have been really great. The reason it's my favorite is because that's the convening that my ecosystem brought this really huge team. We had about 8 or 9, maybe even 10 people. We had some of our funders. We had some of our implementers, all of those folks. So literally after every session, we would go somewhere. We'd find a room somewhere. We'd go down to the bar and grab a beer. We'd do any of those types of things, but we'd come together and we'd kind of synthesize what we just learned and figure out, number one, if it made sense in some form for us. And if so, how we could start that work. And right then and there, we got that work started. That's where the real learning power is here, is if you can walk away with plans, and you can do that by yourself. You should still try to do that by yourself, and you can, but it's a whole lot easier if you're there with a team. So I don't see any other questions. The only other thing I do want to mention is that down in the chat, you'll see the registration link Emily dropped in there. That's the general registration link. If you haven't done so, please hurry up and register soon. But some of you are asking about the AI registration. That's kind of your best way to do it. So get registered. And when the AI registration is released with the E2E sessions, then you'll have it already. If you're not registered yet and that AI registration comes out, you won't necessarily be able to kind of get that information and get in there and into the system. So make sure to get registered soon, get your team registered, and get ready to start looking at the E2E schedule as it goes. Jenny?
Oh, we are excited to see you in Chicago, and we hope that today's session was worth your while. Thanks, everyone.